Jonathan's lungs burned as he sucked in smoke-filled air, frozen between two choices that could define everything. Nana's grip on his wrist trembled, but her eyes, her eyes, still carried that pleading softness he used to know. The masked woman's stance, on the other hand, screamed control, grounded feet, weapon up, gaze unblinking behind the visor. Now or never, she snapped, her voice slicing through the chaos. Behind them, the dock creaked under the stress of fire. Metal screamed somewhere above, and a shipping crane began to collapse in the distance, its cables whining like dying animals. Dominic's voice still backed orders over the comms, but Jonathan realized with a sick twist in his gut that none of those orders were meant to save him. "He's not pulling me out." Another gunshot. This one close enough that the heat of the muzzle flash licked the side of his face. Jonathan's survivor instinct finally broke through the fog of indecision. He shoved the flash drive deep into his jacket pocket and jerked his arm free of both women. "Nobody gets it," he rasped, backing up toward the narrow alley between the barrels. "Not until I know who's playing who." "Jonathan, don't be stupid," Nana started, stepping toward him. But the masked woman moved faster. In a blink, she slammed Nana against the rusted steel wall, forearm pressed against her collarbone. "Stay back. Get off me." Nana choked, thrashing against her hold. "I saved his life." "Or led him here," the masked woman hissed, tightening her grip. Jonathan's fist clenched. "Enough. Both of you." For a heartbeat, silence cut through the inferno. Even the distant gunfire seemed muted, like the world was holding its breath. Then, a voice, smooth as silk and sharp as glass, echoed from beyond the smoke. "Jonathan." "Ezekiel." Jonathan's blood ran cold. The shadows shifted as Ezekiel stepped into view, his dark suit unscathed by the chaos, his expression infuriatingly calm. Behind him, two men in tactical gear flanked his sides like ghosts. He smiled, slow, measured, knowing. "You've caused quite a mess," Ezekiel said softly, as if they were meeting in a quiet cafe instead of a burning war zone. "Hand me the drive, and I'll make sure Nana walks out of here alive." Nana's breath caught. Jonathan's chest tightened. "She has nothing to do with this," Jonathan said, his voice hoarse but steady. Ezekiel tilted his head slightly. "Oh, but she does. She always has." The masked woman shifted beside him, her weapon subtly angling toward Ezekiel. Jonathan noticed the faint tremor in her hand for the first time. Whoever she was, she feared him. Jonathan's phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. He glanced down. Shoot the barrels behind him. Trust no one. His throat went dry. He looked up slowly, meeting Ezekiel's cold gaze, the masked woman's tense stance, Nana's trembling form. Somewhere deep inside, instinct whispered louder than thought. Jonathan's hand moved to his holster. The moment slowed. He could feel every vibration of the burning dock, every grain of ash clinging to his skin. And then, a thunderclap tore the night apart. Jonathan squeezed the trigger. The shot slammed into the full barrels behind Ezekiel, and for a single, horrifying second, nothing happened. Then fire erupted like a living thing, swallowing everything in blinding orange light. The shockwave hurled Jonathan backward into the wall. His vision blurred, ears ringing, lungs choking on heat. Through the smoke and screaming, he heard Nana calling his name, but it was faint, far away. And somewhere, beneath the roar of flames, he swore he heard Ezekiel's laughter. Jonathan walked to darkness. Not silence, darkness. His head pounded in slow, rhythmic waves, and every inhale burned like he'd swallowed smoke. A faint hum filled the air, low and mechanical, vibrating through the metal cord beneath him. Somewhere nearby, liquid dripped steadily, a maddening metronome against the silence. He tried to move, but pain lanced through his ribs like knives. A hoarse groan escaped before he could bite it back. "You're awake," a voice murmured from the shadows. Jonathan's eyes shot open, heart slamming against his chest. He blinked, letting the dim light resolve into shape. The masked woman. She sat on a chair near the far wall, visor discarded, revealing sharp, angular features and a streak of dried blood trailing from her temple. Her dark hair was damp, clinging to her jawline. But her eyes, cold, assessing, yet faintly relieved. "Where?" Jonathan rasped, but his throat caught. He coughed hard, tasting ash. "Where are we?" "A safe house. Off-grid." Her voice was flat, controlled, like she'd rehearsed detachment. "2 clicks east of the docks. You're lucky you're breathing." Jonathan pushed himself upright despite the screaming protest of his body. "Nana, where is she?" Silence. He froze. "Where is she?" he demanded, louder this time, his voice cracking. The masked woman hesitated just long enough for dread to take root. "She's gone." Jonathan's breath stilled. "Gone," he echoed, disbelief hollowing his chest. "She ran." Before the blast hit, the woman said, watching him carefully, as if measuring his reaction. "Ezekiel took her." Jonathan's vision narrowed. "He has her." The masked woman nodded once. "And he has half your friends on his payroll, too." Jonathan clenched his fist, nails digging into his palms. His mind replayed every moment at the docks, the offer, the threat, Nana's pleading eyes. The phone. The text. He scrambled for his jacket, patting down the pockets until he found it, cracked but functional. One unread message blinked on the screen. "You're welcome. Next move decides everything." "See." "See," Jonathan whispered, staring at the message like it might bleed secrets. "Who the hell is he?" The masked woman stood slowly, crossing her arms. "The one who saved your life. And maybe the only person who knows how to take Ezekiel down." Jonathan's gaze snapped to her. "You know them?" Her lips curved into something between a smirk and a warning. "Let's just say we have mutual interest." Before he could press further, a soft beep echoed from the far wall. The woman walked over to a console Jonathan hadn't noticed and pressed a button. The screen lit up, revealing grainy satellite footage, the docks reduced to smoldering wreckage, security drones scanning the area, searchlights coming through the ruins. Jonathan's stomach twisted. How many? He swallowed hard. How many didn't make it? The woman's jaw clenched. "Too many. And Ezekiel's already spinning it. The news will call it a rival gang war by morning." Jonathan dragged a hand down his face. "And the drive?" She turned back to him, her gaze sharp. "Still on you. Good. Don't lose it." Jonathan froze. "You know what's on it." "Enough to burn Ezekiel's empire to the ground," she said quietly. "Enough to bury everyone who's been feeding him power." Before he could respond, the door to the safe house clicked. The masked woman's hand went to her weapon instantly. A shadow slipped inside, moving like liquid, hood low over their face. Jonathan tensed, ready to lunge. Until he heard the voice. "You really don't make my job easy, do you?" Jonathan's breath caught. Standing there, casual as sin, was Caleb. Caleb. His older brother. The brother he buried 10 years ago. For a moment, he thought the blood loss and exhaustion were finally breaking him. He blinked hard, once, twice. Caleb was still standing there, framed by the dim doorway light, hood down, expression unreadable. It couldn't be real. Jonathan's voice came out ragged, disbelieving. "You're dead." Caleb's mouth carved into something halfway between a smirk and a wince. "Yeah. That's what they were supposed to think." The masked woman didn't lower her gun. "This better be good." Caleb raised his hands slowly, palms outward, showing no weapon. "Depends on how you define good." "I'm here to get him out of this alive," he said, nodding toward Jonathan. "Which Considering last night's fireworks, you've done a piss-poor job of. Jonathan staggered to his feet despite the pain, disbelief tightening every muscle in his body. 10 years, Caleb. 10 years I thought you were gone. And now you. Later, Caleb interrupted sharply, his eyes flicking to the console, then to the cracked phone in Jonathan's hand. Right now, Ezekiel has Nana. He's going to use her to bait you into making the wrong move. Jonathan's chest constricted. You knew. Caleb sighed heavily, tugging down his hood. He looked older, rougher, a map of scars across his jawline. But the same sharp eyes, the same set of his shoulders, it was him. I've been tracking him for years. Every port, every offshore account, every shipment. You weren't supposed to get caught in this. Jonathan shook his head, his voice rising. You disappeared, Caleb. Left me with nothing. And now you act like you're in charge. Caleb's jaw tightened. I disappeared because staying meant you'd end up dead by 22. Our family name was marked, John. You think Ezekiel killed Dad for sport? You were next on the list. Silence pulled between them, sharp and suffocating. The masked woman broke it. Family drama's cute, but we don't have time. She stepped forward, gun lowering slightly but still in her grip. If Ezekiel has Nana, he'll move her fast. My bet is Dockyard 7. Caleb nodded grimly. That's where he moves assets he doesn't want anyone finding. Sublevel storage under the old processing plant. Jonathan frowned. You sound like you've been there. Caleb gave him a humorless smile. I built half of his off-grid systems. Before I switched sides. Jonathan froze. You worked for him. Not by choice, Caleb said tightly. But it gave me something no one else has, his fail-safes. He tapped the cracked drive in Jonathan's pocket. That. It's just a key. The real lock is buried deep in his servers, and I know where they are. Jonathan glanced between them, heartbeat pounding. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. Caleb shook his head. We can't just storm Dockyard 7. He'll expect that. First, we pull Nana out. Then we burn his empire. The masked woman crossed her arms. You have a plan, Ghost Boy. Caleb's grin was quick, sharp, dangerous. Yeah. But it's going to get loud. An hour later, the three of them crouched on a ridge overlooking the old processing plant. Floodlights bathed the compound in harsh white, drones buzzing lazily overhead. Armed guards paced the perimeter in rhythmic patterns. Somewhere below, Nana was being held, bait, leverage, or worse. Caleb unfolded a holographic map from a small projector, marking the weak points in the perimeter. 2 entry options, he whispered. West Gate has heavier security but direct access to sub-level lift. East side's quieter, but we'll have to cut through the generator tunnels. Jonathan pointed at the West Gate. That's fastest. Fastest gets you killed, Caleb countered. The masked woman, crouched between them, studied the guards' patrol timings. Generator tunnels. Less visibility, better cover. Caleb nodded. Exactly. But once we're inside, we've got 3 minutes tops before internal sensors flag us. Jonathan checked his weapon, jaw tight. 3 minutes is enough. Caleb glanced at him, an unreadable mix of pride and regret in his eyes. Stay behind me. If anything goes wrong. I'm not leaving without her, Jonathan snapped. Caleb's hand rested briefly on his shoulder, grounding him. I know. The masked woman cut in. Move on my mark. A guard passed. Another. Silence. Mark, she breathed. They slipped into the shadows, ghost among steel and concrete. Inside the tunnels, every sound was amplified, their breaths, the faint hum of generators, the creak of old pipes. Caleb led the way, his movements precise, confident. Jonathan followed, his mind fixed on Nana's face, the promise he made her. Then, ahead, muffled voices. Caleb raised a fist, signaling stop. They crept closer until the words became clear. Orders are to move her at first light, a guard was saying. Boss says she's worth more alive than dead. Jonathan's fingers tightened on his gun. The masked woman leaned close, whispering, 2 guards. 1 exit route. Your call. Jonathan's jaw clenched. No noise. 3 silent shots later, the path was clear. They slipped through the door and into the sub-level lift. Caleb pressed a sequence of buttons Jonathan didn't recognize. The lift shuddered, descended, and then stopped with a metallic screech. Jonathan frowned. What? The lights above flickered red. A calm, mechanical voice filled the air. Unauthorized access detected. Welcome home, Caleb. Caleb froze. Jonathan turned to him sharply. What does that mean? Caleb swallowed hard. It means, he knew we were coming. The lift jolted violently, grinding to a halt between levels. A harsh clang reverberated through the shaft, followed by the slow, deliberate hiss of hydraulics above them. Then came the voice. Not from speakers. Not digital. It was real. It was close. Little brother, Ezekiel's voice drawled, smooth and venomous, echoing down the shaft. Always the clever one. Always thinking you were 1 step ahead. Jonathan's heart slammed against his ribs. Caleb went still, his jaw tight, shoulders rigid like steel. You walk straight into my house, Ezekiel continued, his tone low, mocking, dangerous. Drag Jonathan along, too. How touching. Caleb's hand twitched toward his holster but froze mid-motion. He glanced up, scanning for movement. Show yourself, Ezekiel. A soft, dark chuckle drifted down. Oh, I will. But first, you should know what Nana told me. Jonathan's breath caught. Where is she? Ezekiel ignored him. She's quite the little storyteller, Jonathan. Told me about your secret trips, your stashed letters, your promises. You never told her who you really were, did you? How much blood is on your hands because of him? Jonathan's fingers curled into fist. If you hurt her. Relax, Ezekiel cut in smoothly. She's safe. For now. But there are conditions. Caleb stepped forward, voice low and sharp. Don't do this. Leave her out of it. This is between you and me. Ezekiel's laugh was cold, hollow. It's always been between us, Caleb. You think I didn't know you were feeding intel to the agency? You think I didn't let you? Jonathan blinked, confusion rippling through him. What? Caleb didn't answer. Ezekiel's tone shifted, silk sliding over steel. Come to the upper deck, both of you. Bring the drive, bring your guns, bring your little masked friend if you like. Or Nana takes a swim, she won't survive. The lift lurched upward suddenly, rising without any input. Caleb cursed under his breath, pulling Jonathan close. The masked woman clicked off the safety on her rifle. This is a trap. I know, Caleb muttered, his voice like flint. We walk in anyway. The upper deck was a cavern of steel walkways and blinding floodlights. Heat shimmered from the massive generators below, their rhythmic thrum pulsing through the floor. And there he was. Ezekiel stood on a grated platform above them, hands resting casually on the rail, a predator at ease in his territory. Nana was on her knees beside him, wrist bound, a bruise darkening her cheek. 2 guards flanked her, rifles raised. Jonathan's throat tightened at the sight of her. Nana. She lifted her head slowly, eyes locking on his. John, her voice cracked, and something inside him burned. Ezekiel smiled faintly, tilting his head. Touching. Caleb stepped forward, weapon lowered but ready. Let her go. You first, Ezekiel replied smoothly. That drive in Jonathan's pocket, toss it here. Do that, and she walks out alive. Jonathan's hand went instinctively to the drive. Caleb's grip shot out, stopping him. Don't, he hissed. She dies if we don't, Jonathan whispered fiercely. She dies if we do, Caleb countered, his voice low but sharp. That drive is leverage. Without it, we are dead the second we hand it over. Ezekiel's voice cut through their whispering. Decisions, decisions. Shall I make it easier? He nodded once. One of the guards pressed a blade to Nana's throat. Jonathan's vision tunneled. His heart roared in his ears. John, Nana whispered, tears glinting in her eyes. Don't. Caleb's fingers flexed against his gun. 3 guards, 2 angles, 1 shot, he murmured, calculating rapidly. If I take Ezekiel first, you. No, Jonathan snapped, his voice harsh. She dies before your bullet even hits him. The masked woman, silent until now, leaned forward slightly. There's another way. Both brothers turned to her. She nodded toward the grated flooring beneath them. These platforms are wired into the generator grid. If we overload the conduits from here, the upper deck goes dark. 60 seconds of chaos. Enough to move, enough to shoot. Caleb's eyes flicked up at Ezekiel, then back at her. And enough to get us all fried if the timing's off. Jonathan swallowed hard, gaze fixed on Nana. Do it, he said. Caleb met his eyes, searching for hesitation. He found none. Fine. He turned to the masked woman. On your mark. But Ezekiel was watching them closely. And he smiled. Because he already knew. The humming of the generators deepened, resonating like a heartbeat beneath their feet. Jonathan could barely breathe. Nana's white, tear-brimmed eyes were fixed on him, pleading silently. Caleb's hand hovered near the switch on the console, ready to overload the conduits the moment the masked woman gave the signal. But Ezekiel was still smiling. He leaned casually against the railing above, as though none of this mattered. You really think, he drawled, that I don't know every inch of this deck? Every wire, every circuit, every failed little trick you try, Caleb. Caleb froze mid-motion, jaw tightening. Ezekiel's gaze sharpened. Overload the conduits, and I cut power to the stabilizers. The whole deck drops 50 feet into the lower bay. Nana, my guards, you, all of you, gone in one glorious splash. Jonathan clenched his fist so tight his nails dug into his palms. You're bluffing. Ezekiel's smile widened faintly. Cruel. Am I? He turned his head slightly and gave a single nod. One of the floodlights above them flared, sparked, and died with a hiss. Caleb cursed under his breath. He spatched into the grid. Of course I am, Ezekiel replied smoothly. It's my ship. My deck. My rules. Jonathan's voice cracked. What do you want from me? Ezekiel's dark gaze locked on him, cold and unblinking. I want you to see him, he said softly, pointing at Caleb. I want you to really see him, little brother. Because while you've been playing the loyal soldier, trusting him, bleeding for him, his tone dropped to a whisper that still carried across the steel cavern. He's been lying to you. Since the very beginning. Jonathan turned slowly to Caleb. What is he talking about? Caleb's throat worked, but no words came. Ezekiel chuckled, low and venomous. Oh, he didn't tell you, did he? About the agency up 5 years ago. About the names on the kill list. About how she ended up on it. Jonathan's breath caught. She. Ezekiel leaned forward slightly, savoring the moment. Your mother, Jonathan. Silence. Cold, suffocating silence. Jonathan shook his head slowly. No. Caleb's voice broke when he finally spoke. John, listen to me. You lied to me. Jonathan's voice rose, raw and hoarse. All this time, you said she died in an accident. She did, Caleb said quickly, stepping closer, his hand outstretched. But the accident wasn't random. It was a hit, John. She was targeted because of me, because of the mission I was on. I tried to stop it, Ezekiel cut him off with a sharp laugh. Tried. He authorized the mission, Jonathan. Signed the clearance himself. She was collateral damage, and he buried the truth so deep you'd never find it. Jonathan staggered back as though struck, chest heaving. His ears rang. Nana's muffled sob behind the guards barely reached him. Caleb reached for him again, desperation lacing his voice. John, it's not what you think. Jonathan slapped his hand away. No, his voice was shaking now, every syllable cracking under the weight of betrayal. You let me hate him all these years, he said, jabbing a finger toward Ezekiel. You made me believe he was the monster. And all along, it was you. Ezekiel's voice dropped, quiet, coiling like smoke. Now you see why I brought you here. Jonathan turned toward him slowly, eyes blazing, knuckles white. You want me to hate him? I want you to choose, Ezekiel said softly. And then, with a flick of his wrist, the guard's blade pressed harder against Nana's throat. Jonathan's world narrowed to her tear-streaked face, Caleb's haunted eyes, and Ezekiel's poised, waiting smirk. The masked woman hissed under her breath. We're out of time. Caleb's fingers hovered near his weapon. John, listen to me. Whatever you do, don't give him the drive. Ezekiel raised a hand, signaling his men. Jonathan's heartbeat thundered. Somewhere deep in the belly of the deck, alarms began to wail. The alarms howled louder, reverberating through the steel chamber until every breath felt too heavy, too sharp. Steam hissed from vents above. Somewhere behind them, hydraulics groaned as the bulkhead doors began to seal automatically. Jonathan's grip tightened on the data drive in his hand, a single sliver of metal and glass that carried everything Ezekiel wanted, everything Caleb swore must never fall into the wrong hands. Nana's muffled whimper cut through the chaos. The guard's blade pressed harder against her neck, a single bead of blood catching the cold, fluorescent light. Enough stalling, Ezekiel barked, his voice slicing through the alarms. Give me the drive, Jonathan. Right now. Jonathan swallowed hard, his lungs burning. And if I don't? Ezekiel's smirk returned, slow and deliberate. Then she dies. Caleb stepped forward, fury darkening his face. You so much as scratch her, Ezekiel, and I swear I'll. You what? Ezekiel cut him off, tilting his head like a predator toying with its prey. Finish what you started 5 years ago. You've already proven you'll sacrifice anyone for the mission. Why stop now? Jonathan's jaw clenched. Shut up, he roared, voice cracking. Ezekiel's calm didn't waver. Tell him, Caleb, he said softly, almost tenderly. Tell him what else you've hidden. Caleb's silence was louder than any explosion. His hand hovered near his sidearm, but his eyes wouldn't meet Jonathan's. Jonathan felt the floor tilt beneath him, or maybe it was just his world splitting open. You've been lying to me since the beginning, he whispered. Everything you said about my mother, about Ezekiel, about why we were even here. John, listen, Caleb pleaded, finally taking a step closer. I kept it from you because you weren't ready. If I told you back then, you'd have gone after Ezekiel on your own, and he would have killed you. Everything I've done has been to protect you. Jonathan stared at him, his chest rising and falling in shallow, ragged breaths. Protect me. He let out a bitter laugh, low and broken. You ruined me. Ezekiel's voice slid through the silence like a blade. There it is. The truth. He gestured lazily to his men. Take the girl to the lift. The guards yanked Nana backward. She cried out, her voice roared through the gag. Jonathan's body moved before his mind could catch up. "Stop," he bellowed, raising the drive high above his head. The room froze. Even the alarm seemed muted for a heartbeat. "You want it?" Jonathan's voice trembled, but there was steel beneath it now. "You so much as hurt her, and I smash it right here." For the first time, Ezekiel's neck faltered. Caleb's eyes widened. "John, don't." "I will," Jonathan snarled, gripping the drive tighter. "Don't test me." The masked woman shifted uneasily, her voice sharp under her breath. He's not bluffing." But Ezekiel's calm returned like a tide. "Do it, then," he said, leaning forward, daring him. "Destroy it. Watch everything your mother died for vanish into nothing." Jonathan froze, his fingers trembling. "Think about it," Ezekiel whispered. "Every answer you've ever wanted is on that drive. The names. The orders. The truth." He extended his hand, palm open. "Give it to me, Jonathan, and I'll give you her killer." Jonathan's breath came in short, ragged bursts. Behind Ezekiel, Caleb's hand hovered over his weapon. One twitch. One squeeze. That's all it would take. The lights above flickered violently. The generator's hum spiked into a strained whine. Somewhere deep beneath the deck, a low rumble began to climb, vibrating through the floor. Jonathan's grip faltered. Nana's terrified eyes locked onto his. And then, bang! A single gunshot shattered the air. One of the guards dropped instantly, clutching his throat. The masked woman lunged for cover, shouting, "We are compromised. They found us." Red emergency strobes lit up the chamber as the outer bay doors began to slide open with a mechanical scream. Cold, rushing wind flooded the deck. Jonathan didn't think. He grabbed Nana and dove behind the nearest console as Caleb opened fire, shouting for him to move. Ezekiel's laughter rose above the chaos, dark and unhinged. "You think you can stop me, little brother? This ends only one way." Jonathan clutched Nana close, his paws hammering in his ears. "Stay down," he whispered, voice shaking. Somewhere beyond the flashing lights and screaming alarms, Caleb shouted his name. Jonathan turned just in time to see Ezekiel vault the railing above, landing on the steel deck with predator's grace, a blade in his hand. And he was coming straight for Jonathan. "Please, the answers lie in part 4.